Next, from Chicago, best-selling authors John Grisham and Scott Turow discuss the death penalty and why they say flaws in the legal system mean society should eliminate executions as a form of punishment. The Illinois Channel's televised coverage of this program is made possible by the law firm Reed Smith. And now, best-selling authors John Grisham and Scott Turow discuss flaws with the application of the death penalty. The two authors are introduced by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Cornelia Grumann of the Chicago Tribune.
Discussion.
Okay, I'm going to take no more than 2 minutes to quickly introduce Scott Turow and John Grisham. And can we get you up here on the stage? And then we're going to get into it. Okay, they're coming. I'm just going to start. John Grisham was born in Jonesboro, Arkansas. He lived on a cotton farm until the age of 7. Come on up. He's taught Sunday school to 3-year-olds. His only business card refers to the Little League baseball field that he built and runs. John Grisham, Commissioner, Grove Creek Park. He and his wife, Renee, moved from their home in Oxford, Mississippi in 1994. One triggering event was when they awoke one morning to find a young couple taking their wedding vows on their front lawn. They fled to a more private home in Charlottesville, Virginia. Salon once described John as, quote, what you might get if you put Cal Ripken, Garth Brooks, Dan Quayle, and Harrison Ford into a blender and press the puree button. In his first we can discuss that later. In his first jury trial, John defended a man who had shot his wife's boyfriend 6 times in the head. His fee was, wait for it, all you highfalutin attorneys out there, $1,000. And for that generous fee, John got the killer off on self-defense. In the 80s, he won a seat in the Mississippi State Legislature, and he served 2 terms. He participates on mission trips to Central America. He used to shave only on Sundays, and that was just so as not to offend the church ladies, but he said he's given up that policy. He also allegedly adheres to a strict sartorial policy of no socks except when his wife browbeats him into wearing them for extra special occasions. And tonight qualifies as an extra special occasion. John also has written a few books. Scott Turow is a graduate of New Trier High School, where he claims to have nearly flunked freshman English thanks to substandard grammar. He managed to transcend freshman English, learn grammar, and get into Amherst College and later Harvard Law School. Among the high-profile corruption cases Scott helped prosecute as an assistant U.S. attorney was the tax fraud case of Illinois Attorney General William Scott. He also prosecuted the notorious Gaylord judicial corruption case. Scott handled the pro bono appeal of Alejandro Hernandez in DuPage County and helped win his release from death row and prison. And he also helped Christopher Thomas in Lake County get off death row. Scott was featured on the cover of Time magazine in 1990 as the Bard of the Litigious Age. He's a partner at Sun and Shine Nath and Rosenthal, where he handles white-collar crimes. And he was a deeply involved member of the Governor's Commission on Capital Punishment, which issued 85 terrific, hard-hitting recommendations for criminal justice reforms in Illinois. The state has since adopted many of them. He serves on the State Executive Ethics Commission, and Scott, too, apparently has written a few books. And those books have helped Scott to at least pursue another fantasy, one that I think replaced the ambition to become a federal judge, which was becoming a rock star. The rock bottom remainders includes Scott and a revolving phalanx of other best-selling authors, including Amy Tan, Stephen King, Mitch Albom, and Dave Barry. Scott is fresh from this summer's 15th anniversary tour that promoted itself thusly, now with 50% less musical suckitude. And he also told me before this that the last time he was on the stage was when he rocked Chicago with that band on Halloween a couple of years ago. So, without further ado, let's get started. Because in preparation for this, yesterday I called two people I was pretty confident would not be shelling out $100 to come here tonight. And one was Joe Burkett, DuPage County State's Attorney. And the other was Tom Epak, some of you may know. And there has never been a more zealous advocate of the death penalty in Illinois. He's a prosecutor, Cook County prosecutor. And I met him first. I saw him perform first at a hearing for Derlin Edmonds in, I think, 1997 before witnessing his execution. And both of them basically bring up, I asked them what they would ask if they were here tonight, and both of them brought up essentially the same question, which was, we have, in the last decade, we have focused more attention on capital punishment. We have refined the death penalty. The Supreme Court took juveniles off the table. They took those with mental retardation off the table. We don't execute foreign citizens. In Illinois, with so much focus on the death penalty, there have been all the reforms from the commission that you worked on. Prosecutors are exercising a lot more discretion. So why then is your confidence going down instead of going up in the system?
Well, I mean, that's a fair question, and I know both guys. I actually once persuaded Tom to release a client of mine, so I can tell you that he has a very fair side. And I can't resist pointing out that Joe has opposed virtually all of the reforms that he now champions. But be that as it may. The answer to the question is that we made 85 recommendations, and about half of them were adopted. And all of us on the Capital Punishment Commission had to ask ourselves, even if all of these reforms were adopted, do we think that the system would work? And I still think the answer to the question is no. For example, the case of Anthony Porter. Every reform that's been implemented in the state of Illinois, whether it's jailhouse snitch testimony or videotaping interrogation of murder suspects or slightly narrowing the felony murder rule, none of that would have changed the result in Anthony Porter's case, where he was still wrongly convicted and wrongly condemned. And nor do these reforms change the arbitrariness of the system. They do not change the fact that you are 3.5 times more likely in this state to be sentenced to death if you kill a white person as opposed to killing a black person. Nor can it do anything about the social structure that produces that result. And we should be very proud of ourselves in this state for having, largely through the support of the public, that refused to recoil in horror when George Ryan cleared death row. We should be very proud of the reforms that have been enacted, and I would agree. And I would agree with Tom and Joe that it is a better system. But in answer to the question I posed before, will it reach only the right cases without also reaching the wrong cases? No. There's no assurance that it will do that. And we're much better off. The death penalty is used much more judiciously right now, and I'm happy about that. I commend the prosecutors of the state for their better judgment. But no, it's the doubts about the system persist.